And now, Splunk's Cybersecurity 60-second charity challenge. Remember the rules. You've got to get through an entire subject in 60 seconds, or you donate to today's charity of choice. Good luck!
All right. So Verizon recently released its annual Data Breach Investigations Report, or DBIR. DBIR? Do people say DBIR? I don't know. Is that?
They do now.
They do. DBIR report. So anyway, report came out. Looking forward to this every year. Has a lot of really great information. We were talking about it earlier with some of the things that stood out to us from this report. One of which was initial access trends, and unsurprisingly, stolen credentials play a big role in initial access. And in this report, they found that they were leveraged in nearly half of the breaches for initial access into an organization's systems. So with that, because it makes up such a large proportion of initial access vectors, we thought we'd do the charity challenge to explain top mitigations for credential theft. So who wants to go first with their recommendations for that?
Well, what's our charity?
Oh, right. I do this every time. I forget the charity.
Do.
I'll let Ryan explain the charity.
Because the charity this time is the AIDS Life Cycle. It's what I was actually riding from San Francisco to LA to raise money for, and it's a great group of people who raise money to try to help out folks who are HIV positive or AIDS or their families, and also contribute a significant amount of money towards trying to end HIV and AIDS. So they've done some great work. It was a really inspiring ride for myself. Our former colleague David Verve and Derek King joined me. We personally raised about $17,000 for the bike ride, and then overall, the charity raised about almost $11 million this year, or over $11 million. So it's one of the single largest charity fundraising events for HIV/AIDS in the U.S., and it was a great experience, and they really put the money to good use. So in honor of Pride and my own personal adventure, which is now I'm still recovering a bit in those calves, highly recommend, and minimally Mick and I will continue to donate more money to the charity after the end of this. So
awesome. Yeah, it's a great charity.
And I will go first. I will volunteer to go first this time, Mick, so that I can just use in quickness. That's the so Ollie, feel free to roll clip. So I was on vacation last week. I wasn't able to do my traditional, the Verizon DBIR was released tweet thread yet. Don't worry, it's coming. But saying that, one of my biggest findings last year was the prevalence of credential theft. I think I said, credentials rule everything around me. And the use of credentials over and over and over again has continued this year. For those of you who haven't dug into it before, cred theft is the use of credentials by adversaries who gather them either dumping off of POP machines or using password dumps from breaches. In this case, Audra's talking about initial access points, so it's more of the breaches. Because the credentials are legitimate, they can be really hard to detect. My number one way to find and mitigate or detect credential theft is baselining as a method to find new or weird places that the utilization of credentials were used, and also to see if a executable has actually started using that credential for the first time. If PSexec starts using a credential, why are they doing it, and why haven't you found it before? Today's the day to start hunting and try out the Peak Threat Hunting Framework from Federman and Bianco.
All right, got the peak mention in there.
There we go.
So I too was on vacation last week, and so I was thinking more about beaches than breaches, but what are you going to do? Credential theft, yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's been pretty consistent for the past couple years, and it's nothing new. So I'm not going to say the same things like, oh, you should use a password manager, strong passwords, don't reuse passwords, stop using passwords altogether. How about that? Just like eating your cyber vegetables is good for your physical health, same thing with your cyber hygiene. Start moving away from passwords entirely and credentials entirely and move to a hardware token or passwordless authentication. Hardware token is a small device carried around with you. You can even get embedded in your hand if you want to, if you're weird like that. It's basically, you don't have a password anymore, you use a token. Passwordless authentication is something like your fingerprint or facial recognition. Now, services like Google, Facebook, Twitter, or Meta, whatever they're called now, all have these systems in place and all support tokens. So stop moving away from password systems. And I think these breaches will go down. We move to a more secure identity management system.
All right. Well, let's ask anyone watching if they have an opinion about who had the better answer between Mick and Ryan. I think those were both really great points. Passwordless is hopefully going to become more prevalent. The problem, though, is as a user, you're kind of limited to what companies are doing, right? Like, if I'm a customer or a consumer of something and I have an account, it's not really up to me if I want to go passwordless, right? I mean, you kind of have
Lara
to.
just brought this up, right? Can you tell banks not to use passwords anymore, or just two-factor authentication that's not SMS based?
Yep.
I remember when I worked in lived in the UK, my HSBC would send me basically a one-time pad little device that I had to use to log into my account for extra security rather than anything else. So they definitely have the
Like,
capability.
I will get you some identity monitoring. Okay, you'll be fine.
I have like 9 times the amount of that, so it's
Yes.
it's.
I will be long gone before the monitoring runs out. Yeah, Laura, I completely agree with you. I think short of some sort of identity management framework and policy that's legislated out, we're going to keep having this discussion.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Riri says Mick gets their vote. So should we go with that? Does anyone else have an opinion before it's too late?
I feel it's 1-2 right now. 2 Mick, 1 me.
Did you vote for yourself?
No,
Did you vote?
that would be a +3 modifier. I would just win. So,
well, with those calves,
yeah, I will crush you. Do you have an opinion, Audra? What are your thoughts?
Well, the one thing that I was curious about is the argument for.
Are you voting for yourself? Is this a
yeah? Let me tell you
winner?
what I think is rotating passwords. Right? I was surprised that wasn't something that we talked about before. Oh, look, Ryan, you just got another vote.
I said rotating passwords. I said rotating passwords is a bad idea.
I think we're tied at this point.
Yeah.
Mick, Ryan, Mick,
You're the tiebreaker, Audra.
Oh no. Well, gosh, it's hard because Mick, I like your answer, but it's more theoretical than realistic, right?
How is a hardware token theoretical?
Okay, hardware token is not theoretical, so that's fair. Okay, I'm gonna go with yours, Mick, because.
Thank you, Audra. You are the best.
Thanks for reminding me of the hardware token part, because if you had something like a YubiKey, for instance, that definitely does help, with credential theft and even more so than like 2FA, for instance.
There you go.
But,
and the question was around
100%
mitigating,
prevents
not detecting.
account takeover.
So there we go. Cool.
Ryan, donate to your own charity.
I'll just keep donating to myself. It'll be great. It's over and over.
Right.